These are the solutions to the study guide for Algebra Quiz 3. So let's take a look at our first problem here, and it says to solve the equation. And we have a bunch of fractions in the problem. So if we want to deal with the fractions, we can, that's fine, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of them. So the way I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by a number that will cross-cancel a 2 and an 8. So I need to think of a bigger number that 2 goes into and 8 goes into. That 2 is a factor and 8 is a factor. And there's lots of numbers. You could use 16, you could use 24, but 8 is the smallest number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write an 8 next to each of these terms and then do a little cross-canceling. So I go ahead and do that. 2 goes into 8 4 times. I multiply across. I'm multiplying these numbers right here, and I'm getting 4, but I got to remember to bring down that x as well. So over here, the 8's cancel out, and that leaves me with minus 1x. 1 because it's 1 times 1 is 1 there, and 8 goes into 8 one time again. 1 times 3 equals 3. So from this point, I collect some like terms. 4x minus 1x makes 3x, and this equals 3, and when I do that division, I end up with 1. So there it is, x equals 1. Let's take a look at the next problem. And here it talks about Al rents a moving truck for $19.95 plus 99 cents per mile. Now this right here, because it gave me a dollar amount and then it says plus, and then it gives me a rate, 99 cents per mile. And the key word there is per. That tells me now I'm dealing with a rate. If I go to the question and I find out that they want to know the how many miles, and that's what it says right here, how many miles, that tells me right away, yes, this is my variable term. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write down 1995 plus, and then 0.99 m. M for number of miles. M equals number of miles. And then I continue reading on. It says, before returning the truck, Al fills the tank with gas, which cost him $65.32. That's an extra expense that he has. Let's write that in there, 65.32. And it says the total cost, so total cost is $144.67. That's what he spends all together. And so now we're going to go ahead and set that equal to that amount and combine some like terms. So I'm going to combine these two terms together, and that gives me $85.27. Plus, I still have that 99 cents, or 99 hundredths of a dollar, times by the number of miles I drove equals 144.67. So at this stage, I'm going to go ahead and do some opposite operations to solve by subtracting that 85.27 from both sides. 85.27, and when I do that, looks like I'm going to be getting $59.40. This all equals 99.99 m. So now I just divide by that 0.99, and that gives me my answer. So it looks like I'm getting 60 miles. 99 hundredths goes in there evenly, and that's what I got. So let's take a look at the next problem. It says solve the equation. And so what I'm going to do first is distribute that negative 2 over this subtraction. So I'm left with 15 equals negative 4t minus, and this is not going to be minus actually. I saw that minus sign, so I wrote that down, but then right away I see this negative sign right here. And these negative signs, again, you can treat that minus 1 as negative 1 plus negative, make a positive. So I'm going to write down plus 2. 2 times 1 makes 2. And then I go ahead and start doing some opposite operations. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 2 from all sides. And I'm left with 13 equals negative 4t. So I get to divide now. Divide by negative 4. And I'll just leave the answer this way. Negative 13/4. Doesn't matter where the negative sign goes. It can go with the 13, the 4, or right in the middle, and that's fine. If you wanted to write it as a decimal, that's fine. Negative 3 and 25 hundredths. Or you write it in the mixed number form, negative 3 and 1/4. That would take any of these answers. Let's take a look at the next three problems. And this next one asks us to solve an equation again, so we'll start moving some terms from one side to the next. So it's an equation with two variables, and the variables are on both sides of the equal sign. So when I subtracted the 2x from both sides, it leaves me with 3x plus 2 equals 14. And then I move the 2 to the right-hand side, so I subtract that from all sides, leaves me with 3x equals 12. Then I just divide. Divide by 3, and I get the answer, x equals 4. Well, look at this next one. I'll distribute first, and I'm left with 2t plus 4 equals 2t plus 4. Now, at this stage, you might be able to see what the answer is just by noting that the two expressions equal one another. But if you did not see that, you can continue on, and it'll show you that it's an identity. See, where we have two numbers that are exactly the same, we call that, and they're equal to each other, we call that an identity. So the way we're going to state the answer is we'll say there are infinitely many solutions. So let's take a look at the next one. On this one, we go ahead and solve. Now at this stage, you can actually see what the answer is. Whenever you have the same term on both sides, like here I have a negative n, and I have a negative n there, they're going to cancel out because I'm going to do an opposite operation, and the negative n will cancel out the positive n. Same thing over here, so I'm left with two numbers, but this time they do not equal. When they do not equal, it's not an identity, but I don't have an answer either. There is no solution. There's no value I can put in for x to come up with that the same number, because I always have to enter the same number on both sides and then either subtract 24 or add 5 to either side. So I would never get the same answer or the same number on both sides, the equal sign. So there's no solution in that case. Looking at the next problem, here it says to find the value of x, then find the angle measures for the polygon. So I'm going to go ahead and take the angles that I have and add them up. So I have 1 3/10 x plus 2 4/10 x plus x plus 18. And then I'm going to also add on the x plus 60 and the 2x. So I get to combine some like terms here. So I'm going to combine the 1 3/10, the 2 4/10, this x right here, this x right here, and this 2x. And so when I do that all together, that makes 7 7/10 x. Now combine the constants, and it looks like I have an 18 here, and this makes 60, or that is 60, so that makes a total of 78. And then I'll go ahead and bring down the sum of those angles, which it says right here is 540 degrees. And so now I'm ready to solve, so I'll just do some opposite operations here. I'll subtract the 78 from all sides. And so I still have this 7 7/10 x equals, and equals 462. So I'm dividing by 7 7/10, and I'm left with x equals 60. So once I have that, I'm substituting back in because it says find the angles measures of the polygon as well. So this is one of the answers, and then I have to take 60 and do the work that it says here. So 2.4 times 60, and that gives me 144 degrees. And then I have to do 60 plus 18, gives me the 78 degrees. And then 2 times by 60, and that gives me 120 degrees. And then 60 plus 60, and that gives me 120 degrees as well. And the last one, 1.3 times by 60, and that gives me 78 degrees. So make sure you find all angles in there as well. And looking at the next one, it says Caleb sells $400 worth of baked goods each month and receives a monthly allowance of $75. So a monthly allowance is $75. Maddie sells 350, so I'm going to write 75, and it's a monthly allowance, so I'm going to go ahead and write M there. And it says Maddie sells $350 of baked goods and $150 of jerky snacks each month and receives a monthly allowance of $65. Now, will they ever make the same amount of money? Explain. So we're going to find out if they will or not. Now, in this problem, they do say sells $400 worth of baked goods each month. So that sounds like, well, I got to have the variable there as well. They didn't mean for that to happen. I should have crossed this part out. Maybe I'll go ahead and do that in this case here. So I'm going to take that each month, and we're going to cross that out, because in this problem, I didn't want that to be a variable term right there. So I'm going to cross that part out, and I'm going to just say they receives this monthly allowance of this amount. And so this is like a constant amount, and then this was the variable amount, because that's what you're going to see on the test. And so you're not going to have that extra part right there. That was an error I made. I did not take that out of this problem, and so I'll go ahead and take it out right now. So $400 was just an extra amount this person already had, and then $75 per month. $350 and the $150 was an extra amount that they already had, plus the $65 per month. And so we want to find out, will they make the same? Well, let's go ahead and combine some terms here. So this gives me $500 plus 65M, and then this equals still the 400 plus 75M, and then I'll do some opposite operations. And so when I do that, I'll go ahead and subtract the 65 from all sides. And when I subtract the 400 from all sides at the same time, just to speed up the process a little bit, I'm left with 10m equals 100. So when I divide by the 10, you'll see how I end up with m equals 10. So after 10 months, yes, they will end up having the same amount, or they will have the same amount of money. And here an office manager spent $650 on a new energy saving copier, and then that will reduce the monthly electric bill in the office from $112 to $88. And so we want to find out, and so that means $88 every month. This is what they're going to end up spending. Prior to that, they always spent $112. So we have this initial amount of $650 we're spending, and then we're also going to end up getting an amount of $88 each month. On this other side of the equal sign, though, we're going to have $112 each month. And so from this point, we can go ahead and solve by just doing some opposite operations. So I'm going to take away the 88m from both sides, find out the difference of these two amounts. That leaves me with the 650 still equals, do the subtraction, I'm left with 24m. And I'll divide by 24. And once I do that, I'm left with 27.083 repeated. And so I can't have 27.08 repeated months, because I want to find out in how many months will the copier pay for itself. So I'm going to go ahead and say, well, 27 months it has not paid for itself, so if it's a whole increment of months, I would say 28 months the copier has paid for itself. So I'm going to go with that. So those are the problems you're going to see on the test, and this is pretty much what it'll look like. So remember, on the test you'll have ones that have a constant amount and a variable amount set equal to each other. You'll have one like this, possibly where it has maybe just one variable amount, another variable amount, and just one constant on one side. So look for those problems. Good luck.